Hi all my crafty friends. I hope y'all enjoyed today's tutorial. I have joined in on the Try It Tuesday challenge in association with Unicorn Dust Designs and other crafters across YouTube. I have picked 3 DIYs that other crafters have created and put my own spin on them. The first DIY was inspired by Liz Moore Decal and Decor, using a Dollar Tree Bloom from Within decal. The second DIY was inspired by She's So Crafty. I absolutely fell in love with this adorable plant bench when I saw it. The third DIY was inspired by both Simply Stacy Designs and Peppermint Cactus. I wanted to try making a round sign with foam board instead of wood. It turned out amazing. I'll leave links to everyone's videos in the description below. So sit back, grab a coffee, and enjoy these amazing DIYs. If you want to see more Try It Tuesday videos, leave your favorite emoji in the comments to let me know. And now for the first DIY. I created this beautiful sign using a Dollar Tree Halloween sign and a decal. I know I usually create my own vinyl decals for projects, but I saw this one at Dollar Tree and fell in love with it. I used this Halloween sign. I turned the sign over and applied some spackling to the holes and painted the back and sides of the sign with Waverly plaster chalk paint. I glued some craft paper to the back to keep the glitter from getting everywhere when I hung it up. I just didn't record myself doing that part. After the paint dried, I used a straight edge and a pencil to create the look of boards where the sign had indentions. I used Waverly silver linings and elephant chalk paint to create a distressed look using a Dollar Tree makeup sponge. I then applied a layer of Mod Podge so the pencil marks wouldn't smear. I wanted to use some of my solo wood flowers on the sign. I love the look of these, and I recently purchased their 100 random flower bundle. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested in looking at what they have. I wanted the flowers to be a pink color, so I added some pink acrylic paint to some water and dipped the flowers in it. I put the flowers in the oven at 250 degrees for about 8 minutes to speed up the drying process. When I took them out, they were still a little damp, so I was able to spread the blooms apart a little. I used the same pink paint and some red to highlight the tips of the flowers. Since I was going to use the solo wood flowers, I cut the flowers off the vinyl decal and placed them aside, because I know I will find another project to use them on. I added a leaf to each flower from a Dollar Tree floral pick I had in my stash and glued both the leaf and the flower onto the board. I then applied the decal to the board. And just look at how cute this little sign turned out. I have to say, I have a new favorite. I saw a plant bench that She's So Crafty made and knew I had to have one. I thought it was the cutest thing ever. I put my own twist on the plant bench, and I'm so glad I did. So to get started, I had to figure out how large I wanted it to be. For the back part of the bench, I used 5 large paint sticks from Home Depot. They were the 21-inch long ones. I used the smaller paint sticks as spacers. Once I got the back part set up, I took 2 more 21-inch paint sticks and marked where I needed to cut them. They will be the supports in the back of the plant bench. I took them outside and cut them using a miter saw. Next, I needed to make the box for the seat to sit on. I used a plant stake from Dollar General for this. They have these sticks for $1. I purchased about 20 of them on my last trip. They can be used for so many different projects. I cut the larger pieces to the same width as the back of the bench, and the side pieces I cut to 4.5 inches. I used Gorilla Glue, hot glue, and staples to hold the box frame together. I also used a square to make sure the box frame was square. I was afraid I would get glue on my mat, so I replaced it with some craft paper while I worked on the plant bench. I added staples to all corners of the box frame and also to the back piece. The next step was to attach the box to the back of the bench. I cut 2 more pieces of plant stick from Dollar General at the height I want the seat to be. I glued them in place and added clamps to hold them until I could get them square and level. I put the box frame against the back piece and used a level to make sure the bench seat was level, because I would really hate for my stuff to roll off. I marked where the box frame needed to sit on both the top and the bottom. I laid the back down on my work table and applied glue between the marks I had just made on the back. I then aligned the box frame, checked the levelness, and clamped everything together. After the glue dried, I removed all the clips. I used Waverly plaster chalk paint on the entire plant bench. I painted both the front and back. And I'm not going to bore you with the painting process because I think we all know how to paint. While I waited for the paint to dry on the bench, I cut the wood for the seat. I mixed up water, dark gray acrylic paint, and black acrylic paint to create a dark gray stain for the seat. I used a Dollar Tree kitchen sponge to apply the stain mixture to the wood and wiped it down with a paper towel. Once everything was dry, it was time to put the seat on. I used hot glue and pressed the stained wood down and held it in place until it was set. This is the cutest little plant bench ever, and I cannot wait to show it off. I also wanted to add some decor to the bench. I used a large Dollar Tree bucket for a flower pot. I made a simple bow with some ribbon to add to the front of the bucket. I cut a piece of flower foam down so it would fit into the bucket and added some Dollar Tree and Walmart floral picks to the bucket. I cut the flowers off and placed them in the floral foam until I was happy with the way it looked. I next added Dollar Tree Spanish moss to the bucket. I just love the way this little arrangement turned out. The small white roses and wildflowers look amazing together. Okay, y'all, I wanted to show y'all this adorable tabletop vacuum I got from Amazon. I saw another YouTuber using it, and hers was shaped like a ladybug. She had also gotten hers from Amazon. So I took a look and found this adorable little cow and just had to have it. Believe it or not, this little thing works great to clean up messes on your desk. I'll leave a link in the description for you to take a look at these cute little things. After cleaning up my desk, I hot glued the ribbon to the front of the bucket. And look at how precious this little flower bucket is. I made a NoSew Pillow using this fabric from Walmart. First, I cut it down to size and then turned it inside out. I placed hot glue down both sides and let it dry. I then turned the pillow right side out and stuffed it with stuffing out of my stash. I placed a line of glue across the top of the pillow and rolled it over. I then ran a line of glue down the opening that was left. And look at the adorable pillow for my bench. I used a tier tray tag I had left over from Christmas. The sign was already white, but I wanted it to match the bench, so I gave it a coat of plaster chalk paint from Waverly. I cut out this Bless My Blooms cut file from Design Bundles and applied it to the tag. I'll leave a link to the bundle this cut file is in. I want to say I paid like $4 for it, and it came with 20 or 30 different spring sayings. And sometimes simple is better. So I decided to leave the tag just like this. It was so beautiful. And look at how cute everything is once I put it together. Like I said, I have a new favorite now. I created this faux wood round sign using a Dollar Tree foam board. I love the way this sign turned out. It was exactly what I wanted, and it was a lot easier working with the foam board than with wood. I used this large bowl from my kitchen to trace a circle onto the foam board. I cut around the circle to make the foam board easier to work with because my work table just wasn't large enough. After cutting the board down, I used a razor blade to cut out the circle. I tried to stay on the line as much as possible so my circle would look good. I did have a couple of places where I got off the line, so I went back in and trimmed those areas. Using a measuring tape, I found the center of the circle and marked it. I then measured 2 inches up and placed 2 more marks. I then used a straight edge and cut shallow lines at the marks. I didn't cut completely through the foam board. I was just wanting it to look like boards. I placed a piece of painter's tape below the pencil mark in the center of the circle and pressed it down firmly. To create the knots and marks that you find in wood, I used a couple of different things. To create punch marks, I used this bottle opener and pressed it into the foam board in sporadic places and turned it different ways. I didn't want any type of pattern, just random marks. To create the knot holes, some people use their fingernails to make the knot holes, but I don't have any. So I used the other end of the bottle opener and it worked perfect. I just pressed it down to create an indentation and to rip through the top paper on the foam board. To create the tiny, what I call wormholes, I used my Cricut tool and just jabbed it around and then turned it upside down to create little notches. For the wood look, I was going for a gray color. To create the look, I used dark gray, light gray, black, and white chalk paint. I also used white wax. I used a Dollar Tree kitchen sponge. Some people use a natural bath sponge, but I didn't have one on hand. But I have used this type of sponge in the past, and it works great. I dipped the sponge into the dark gray and the white wax to start with, and started putting it on the foam board. I made sure my strokes all went from side to side. I then tried to use a makeup sponge to get into the cracks I had cut. I gently separated the cracks and rubbed the sponge down them. I used my kitchen sponge and dipped it into the light gray and white wax. I spread the mixture over the foam board until I liked the way it turned out. Next, I used black and white wax. I rubbed it into the knot holes and the marks I wanted to be seen. I know it looks like I have really messed up, but just wait until I blend everything. Next, I dabbed the sponge into the white and white wax and started applying it to the board. I didn't like that the black wasn't showing up the way I wanted, so I used a small paintbrush and applied black paint to the knot holes, cut lines, and other markings I wanted to show. Oh, and by the way, you don't want to lay your arm on the wet paint like I did. I'm always messy when I paint. I actually bent the foam board back so I could get into the grooves. But be careful, you don't want to rip the back of the foam board. I let the paint dry for about 10 minutes and then applied more white paint and wax. And just look at how much it looks like real wood. I removed the tape slowly from the center, making sure the paper top wasn't being pulled up. I then painted the bottom of the board with ivory chalk paint. While the paint dried, I created a cut file in Design Space. I will try to figure out how I can share this file with those of you who have a Cricut and would like to try this project. I'll leave the link in the description below. Okay, I just want to let you know this part was a fail, but I was able to recover from it. I applied the vinyl and transfer tape to the bottom half of the circle, the ivory color. When I started pulling up the transfer tape, it actually caused the paper top to come off along with the first board. Oh, I was so upset. I knew then that this is the sign I must have. After sitting and staring at the big mistake I had just made, I decided to just paint the foam part again with ivory chalk paint. I used 2 coats of paint just to make sure it was covered well. I then applied a layer of Mod Podge to the entire board and let it dry. I was really hoping this would work. I recut the vinyl and used a less sticky transfer tape. I centered the saying onto the board and removed the transfer tape. And it worked like a charm. I just wish I would have used the Mod Podge to start with. I think that would have saved the paper covering of my foam board. But since this is for my use only, I'm okay with it. Now to finish up. I used some ribbon in the middle and hot glued it to the back of the board. Oh, and let me tell you, I got a new hot glue gun yesterday from Walmart. It was only $4. It comes with a switch for low and high temps, and the nozzle is so much smaller than the glue gun I have been using. This is the first chance I've had to use it, and I love it. I then used some thick twine around the outside. This helped to cover up the fact that I was using foam board and not wood. I made a little hoop out of the twine. Before I glued it, I actually taped it down and hung it on the wall to make sure it hung straight. Does anyone else have a problem with things not hanging straight, or is it just me? Let me know in the comments. I then glued it to the mark on the back. I love this sign. I think this is my favorite project so far. I can't wait to show it off. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I upload weekly home decor DIY videos, and you know you don't want to miss any of them. So go ahead and hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when I upload a new video. And as always, thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting!